All right, let's dive in. Today, we're exploring one of the most ambitious works of literature ever created, Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. And you know, it's so much more than just a story. It's this incredibly detailed map of the entire Christian afterlife, a journey for the soul that, seriously, has fascinated readers for centuries. Let's get into it.
But before we take a trip through hell, purgatory, and heaven, let's start with a question I think we can all relate to. Have you ever felt just completely lost? I don't mean like you took a wrong turn driving. I mean that deep down, spiritually or emotionally adrift kind of lost. Well, that feeling is exactly where our story kicks off. Back in the year 1300, a poet named Dante Alighieri found himself in that very spot. He starts his whole epic by telling us that midway through his life's journey, he just woke up and realized he was completely, utterly lost.
He describes it as being lost in a dark wood. Now, this isn't a literal forest, right? It's a powerful symbol for a life that's gone off track, a life of sin and spiritual confusion. And his quest to get back to the right path becomes the framework for the entire Divine Comedy, a kind of spiritual map of sin, redemption, and divine love.
So, Section 1, A Soul Gets Lost. How does this massive journey even begin? Well, Dante's there, lost in the woods, and he sees a sunlit mountain in the distance. It's a symbol of a righteous life, the goal. But his path is blocked by three pretty terrifying beasts, a leopard, a lion, and a she-wolf. And these aren't just animals. They represent the core sins that keep us from the light: lust, pride, and greed.
And that's because, at its heart, the entire poem is an allegory. See, Dante the man isn't just one guy. He represents every single human soul. His physical journey, literally walking through hell, climbing a mountain, and flying to the stars, is one big metaphor for the spiritual path we all have to take, from sin all the way to redemption. It turns the story from a fantasy into a universal guide for looking inward.
Just when it seems like all hope is lost, a guide shows up. It's the spirit of the ancient Roman poet Virgil. Turns out he was sent by Dante's long-lost love, Beatrice. And Virgil himself, he represents human reason. The message here is pretty clear. The first step out of that confusion and sin is to use our brains, our intellect, to understand why we messed up in the first place.
And where does reason lead Dante first? Well, not up toward the light. Nope. It leads him downwards, straight into the Inferno. To understand salvation, you see, Dante first has to understand the true nature and the real consequences of sin.
The tone is set right away by this absolutely chilling line carved over the gates of hell. This isn't a place for second chances. It's a realm of absolute despair, a permanent state of being cut off from God. That's it.
But here's the thing. Dante's hell isn't just random chaos and torture. It's meticulously organized by this principle called contrapasso, which basically means poetic justice. This is the key. It means the punishment for any sin is always a symbolic reflection of the sin itself. That's the logic that holds the whole Inferno together. Let me give you a couple of brilliant examples of contrapasso in action. So the lustful, right? The people who were swept away by their passions in life. Well, now they're endlessly swept about by a violent storm for all eternity. Then you have the greedy, who are so burdened by their obsession with wealth. What's their fate? They're forced to push heavy, useless weights forever. The punishment perfectly mirrors the crime.
And this all leads to one of the most surprising and frankly genius parts of the poem. The deepest, most terrible part of hell, it's not a fiery pit. It's a frozen lake called Cocytus. This is where the worst of the worst, the traitors, are frozen solid in ice. And this is Dante's ultimate point. The greatest evil isn't some fiery passion. It's the cold, hard absence of all love and all human connection.
After passing right through the center of the earth, Dante and Virgil pop out on the other side into a completely different realm, Purgatory. This is the second leg of the journey, and the whole tone just shifts, dramatically, from despair to hope.
I mean, the contrast between the two places is just night and day. Where the Inferno was all about despair and eternal punishment, Purgatory is all about hope and transformation. The souls here aren't damned. They are guaranteed to get to heaven, and they are actively, even willingly, working to purify themselves.
So Purgatory is this massive mountain with 7 levels, or terraces, and each one is for purging one of the 7 deadly sins. But the punishments here are corrective, they're not eternal. The proud have to carry these heavy stones to learn humility. The envious have their eyes sewn shut to cure their malicious gaze. This place is all about active healing. And as the souls climb higher and get cleansed, their climb literally gets easier, symbolizing the soul becoming lighter and freer. At the very top of the mountain, Dante finally reaches the Garden of Eden, the earthly paradise. And it's here that we get one of the most moving moments in the entire poem. Virgil, who represents human reason, has to turn back. He can guide Dante to the absolute peak of human perfection, but he himself cannot enter heaven.
To go any further, a new guide is needed. And this brings us to the final, most mystical part of the journey, Paradiso. The ascent through heaven itself, a journey into pure, brilliant light.
So here, a new guide takes over, Beatrice. Now Virgil represented human reason, what you need to understand sin and morality. Beatrice represents divine love and revelation. She embodies the grace and faith you need to even begin to comprehend the mysteries of heaven, something reason just can't do on its own.
Heaven is laid out as 9 celestial spheres, each one spinning faster and shining brighter as Dante goes up. But there's a really important catch. While souls appear in different spheres to teach Dante about different virtues, they don't actually live there. All the souls actually live together in perfect happiness in the highest heaven, the Empyrean. The spheres are just a visual aid, a way to help Dante's mortal mind grasp divine perfection. It's less of a trip and more of a profound education.
As Dante gets higher and higher, words start to fail him. The language of heaven, really, is light. It symbolizes God's truth, God's presence. Dante is constantly struggling to find the words to describe what he's seeing. He's showing us that some truths, well, they can only be experienced. You can't just explain them.
And this language of light all builds to the poem's climax. Dante is given this momentary, direct glimpse of God. And it's not some old man on a throne. It's a single, intensely brilliant point of light. And in that one point, he sees the entire universe, all of it, bound together by love in perfect, harmonious unity. Wow!
Which brings us to section 5. Love moves the stars. After seeing the whole universe in a single point of light, what's the ultimate takeaway from this incredible journey? Well, it all comes down to one single, powerful force: love.
The goal of this entire spiritual quest, it turns out, isn't just to see God, it's to achieve alignment. It's that moment when your own personal will, your own desires become perfectly harmonized with the divine will, that universal love that runs the whole show. It's the ultimate state of peace and purpose.
And this brings us to the poem's absolutely breathtaking final line. After everything he has seen, Dante's will is finally turned, like a wheel spinning in perfect motion, by, quote, the love that moves the sun and the other stars. It's his final declaration that this one powerful force is the engine of the entire cosmos.
And so, Dante's 700-year-old epic doesn't just end as a map of the afterlife, it becomes a map for our own lives. And it leaves us with a really profound question to chew on. If your life is a journey, what is the love that moves you?